Hello, can you see me?
I can.
Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you?
You look so beautiful.
So do you, as always.
Radiant. You look glowy.
Oh, it's so nice to see your beautiful face, as
Nice.
always. So I want to get into the nitty-gritty and the behind the scenes of the world of theatre.
Yeah.
So I want to know, when did you first fall in love with theatre?
Well, my mum is a performer and my granddad was as well. So he was a jazz singer. And we were always, I remember vividly sitting in dressing rooms as like a teeny tiny, like younger than your little Millie. Like I was so tiny, just like watching mum sing from the wings. So it was always going to happen, I think. And then I'm so sorry. I don't know. Let me just put that on silent. Do apologize. And then as far as, I think everyone thought I was going to be a singer. That would kind of be the journey, that I would do what my granddad did and then also what my mum did. But I was obsessed, and I still am, with reading. And I mean, I can read a book in a day. I just like, once I start, I can't stop. And as a child, I read all the time and I was absolutely transfixed with whatever character I was reading about. I was them. So I just became this full character as I was reading, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be characters and I wanted to live in the world that the people in my books were living. So that's how like acting became the thing that really moved me. I love to sing, but I would say acting is absolutely what I want to be doing.
Has it then been clean sailing, or how would you react to people saying, is it who you know, not what you know?
Yeah. When I think about the people that I trained with and who's still performing now and who isn't, there's no real rhyme or reason as far as talent. Some of the most talented people are no longer doing it. And when I connect dots with like my colleagues and my people that I've worked with across the board, directors, writers, performers, techies, there is a lot of, oh, I worked with you before, I can vouch for that person, she's amazing. And networking is a huge part of it. And I would say that that's what I'm terrible at. I'm just good at being an actor. As far as everything else, I've always been a little bit of a nana. Like I go home early. I'm not a huge drinker, so I've never done the social side very well. And if I was gonna pass on any words of wisdom, if my child wanted to do it, I'd be like, do the social stuff too. It's just as important, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about your career in general.
I've done a lot of training. I kind of think training is something that you should just always be doing. You should always be working on your craft, always taking classes. So that's happened throughout my life. I've always continued training. As far as professional work, I went to GSA and then I left in my third year because I got the lead in the Spring Awakening tour. And then from there, this is what I mean with like who you know. So the musical director of Spring Awakening, his next project was Parade. And he was like, you have to see Victoria, she's amazing. So that was how I booked my next job. I still auditioned, but I probably might not have had an audition had he not vouched for me. And then similarly, my third job, it was the same producer of Parade. So it was just like kind of a knock-on effect. That's how it happened. And then after that was my first, I remember so clearly because I was only 21 and all I knew at that point was job. And it was my first few months out of work. And I remember calling my agent and being like, am I your only client not working? And she was like laughing down the phone. She was like, no, she was like, the majority of my clients are not working. My job is to find you work. Like if all my clients were working, I wouldn't need to be here. I wouldn't have a job. Then I think it was Titanic. So the first time I did Titanic was at the Southwark Playhouse, and it was the UK premiere, and we did that. And then from there, the casting directors of Mamma Mia came to watch it, and they really liked the chemistry between me and my love interest in Titanic. So they called us in to audition for Sophie and Sky, and then I ended up getting Sophie. He didn't get Sky. But I ended up, that's how I got Mamma Mia. And then after that, I did Titanic again in Canada. It was really, really amazing because the first time we did Titanic, it was just this sort of fringe production And then all of a sudden it was all singing, all dancing as far as like budget. You know, we had this huge budget. All of a sudden the set was quadruple the size and our costumes were suddenly extravagant, and that was really special, and that's how I met my fiance. And I've done a lot of what's called workshops. So in the writing process of like a new musical, once they've written a few drafts of something, they'll call in a team of actors to workshop it. So you'll just do the scene and then they'll rewrite it. And those projects are my absolute, I just love them. I just love them so much because you're involved in the very, very beginning of something. And I've done such amazing British workshops. I'm like aching for those productions to have a life because it's so hard. You know, a lot of what is successful comes from Broadway, and it tends to be a lot of, you know, jukebox musicals or like movies that are now musicals, and so there's not a lot of original writing. And I'm really hoping that a lot of the original writing that I've done over the years will have a life. And it takes years. You know, Hamilton took 10 years to get where it was, so you never know.
Is there anything that sticks out as being your proudest moment in your career?
2 jobs, maybe. The first one, Spring Awakening for me. My very first boyfriend, Lee Mason, which I think you might know him.
I do.
He saw Spring Awakening on Broadway and he called me from New York and he was like, babe, he's like, I've just seen this brand new musical. And he was like, you are going to be Wendell one day. I just know it. I just know that you're going to do that role. And I didn't have a great time at drama school. I wasn't a favorite by any stretch of the word. I found it really difficult. I found it, I didn't find it a supportive environment. I found it a very competitive. I felt like they kill your dream before you've even had a chance to. And I'm not saying that you should be telling students that it's going to be easy, because it obviously isn't, but it just felt, I had a really broken spirit by 3rd year. I wasn't sure if this life that I dreamt of, whether it was going to make me happy anymore. And I remember clearly the head of musical theatre at GSA at the time saying to me, you should think about a backup career. And I remember being sat there thinking, I've just spent 3 years here. I've spent so much money to come to this school. My mum has given me her last £20 in her purse so that I could come here. And you've just told me to essentially think about doing something else. And then I was one of the first people in my year to get a lead role and go and leave early. And so that for me was a real sense of, you broke me, but I'm still here and I'm still doing it. And I still managed, because once someone says something like that to you, you have to then go to an audition and pour your heart out and sing and hope that you don't crack and you're terrified. And so I felt really proud that I had booked such an exciting job. It was my very first audition and I got it. And I remember thinking, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to do this. So that was one. And then the other one was, I did a production called Love Story. And it's based on the film, which I've never seen, but it's a love story. And as far as a real like acting vehicle, she ends up, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but she like ends up having cancer. And so it really stretched my acting skills and I had to work really hard to find that. And I remember just feeling like just proud of the work that I'd achieved and what I'd put into the production and into the role.
What's your favourite thing about being on stage?
I just love, as I said, it links back right to the beginning and when I was reading my books and I just became someone else. It's just that for me. It's just absolutely being another person from start to finish, because it doesn't really leave me even when I come off stage. I'm still like processing and preparing myself for the next scene. And don't get me wrong, when you've done something for 9 months and you have to find ways of making it real again. But for those first like few months of a job where you're still living it, I think that's what I love.
That girl in the mirror is going to go to Hollywood.
Were you a bit of a method actor, would you say?
Method, no. So method, you kind of take the role home with you, and it would mean that whatever character I was playing, I would speak to my fiance in that character. So no, I'm not that. But I have a love affair with words. I absolutely love text work. And I come to a rehearsal having done a ton of prep. Like that's what I'm really good at. And I think it's really funny when you, like, some people say like, I've got a voice that can like belt an X, Y, and Z or whatever it is. Like, but for me, what I know that I am excellent at is text work. And because of that, I've started doing like writing as well. But yeah, I think that's where I think everything you ever need to know as an actor is in the text. Like literally everything. And the best writers in the world, it's all there. When I think about Shakespeare, I think it's so exciting. I'm actually like excited about Shakespeare. I find it exciting. Like not many people say that, but I think it's one of the most exciting things in the world. And sometimes when I'm working with my students, I'm like jumping out of my seat because I'm like, can't you see it's already written? Shakespeare is telling you what to do. It's already there for you. Like he managed to create plays that don't actually need a director. Like that's, to me, that's just, I just think that's amazing. I think it's amazing.
Has there ever been an appropriate moment to use the term, the show must go on?
Oh God, hundreds. On our very opening night of Titanic, the tour, we just hit the iceberg and part of the ceiling fell down onto the stage and missed an actor. Like, you can't write that. Like, it's so funny. I remember doing a job where I didn't have an understudy and I completely lost my voice. And I remember it was just fortuitous that it was Grand Hotel, and Flaemmchen, she sings about being ill. So it's just like, thank God that in the song she talks about being sick and like getting sick, because it meant that when I stopped, because the band completely stopped, I had a huge coughing fit. I took a deep breath, like looked at the MD, and then we like carried on. But like, yeah, so many. I remember being in Mamma Mia and just absolutely blanking. I could not remember my words. And I said about 8 times in a row, I don't know who my dad is. And they kept trying to help me. And I just kept saying, I don't know who my dad is. Because what I was trying to say was, I don't know what my line is. Somebody help me.
Okay, what would be your dream role to play?
So I'm absolutely desperate to do a period piece drama, like really high up on the list, and has been for 10 years, to be honest. I always wanted to do Spring Awakening, did it. And then I always wanted to do Parade. And weirdly, they were my first 2 jobs. And now I really want to do period piece drama. I want brand new writing, like on one of those like fabulous BBC, ITV, long running shows. Like I would love to do that.
Has there ever been a time that you've had to step out of your comfort zone to embrace a role?
To be honest, when I'm in character, I just don't have any inhibition. It's like the only time. As Victoria, as me, I'm such a nervous wreck in everything. I've got no confidence. Like, you have to talk me into so many things. But on stage, I'm pretty much up for anything. Be it nudity, which I've done many times.
So how do you get over that? Any sort of like, you know, Victoria gripes that you might have that your character wouldn't. How do you kind of separate your mind and just, especially with nudity, something so
I don't know. I think that's all in the director. I've just been really fortunate that whenever I have had to do nudity, that it's always just handled really well. And you rehearse the entire thing with clothes on, and you rehearse it so many times with your clothes on, so that when the only difference is the material not being there anymore, you're no longer thinking about that. You're like doing your job. I think that's the only way you can do it. If you were to just dive straight in, I think that would be harder. I did do some work on a film which required nudity, and that really was a case of just take your clothes off and be there. But like, it wasn't just me. There were other girls there. We all were just like, okay, will, oh, actually, I'm remembering now, my very first day of Spring Awakening, the director made everybody tell their most embarrassing story. And he said, the reason that we're doing this is because 2 of our cast members have to do something that's like super vulnerable. So we're going to find ways of like sharing our vulnerable experiences. Or, yeah, I think it's just, if it's handled right by the creative team, then it's not a problem.
Auditions.
Yes.
The worst thing in life. What is it like walking into an audition room?
I absolutely hate it. Because these days they send you like 3 songs, and then you want to arrive prepared. You want to show that you've learnt it, but then it's a memory test, and you're not really acting. You're just trying to remember the words. So that's a real struggle. The thing that gets me through an audition, and something that helps me, and again this is different for everyone, is I will now arrive early, and I like it when you can hear everyone else, because what I've learned from that is everyone's amazing. Everyone's amazing. We can all sing, we can all act, otherwise we wouldn't be in the audition room. So it's not really about that, it's something else. They're looking for something else. They know what they want in their mind. And if you tick that box, whatever that thing is that they're looking for, then you'll be seen again. And if you don't, it's not because you can't sing. As I said, we can all sing. It's not because you can't act. We can all act. It's something else. And that has really helped me. So now when I walk into a room, I take me into the room, and I don't try and be what I think that they want to see, because I don't think you'll get the job that way. The best thing you can do is be yourself, for sure. But yeah, I don't enjoy it. I don't know anyone that does. Sometimes I wish that they'd just give you the material off, because a lot of the time you take your own song and then in the recall, you'll do the material from the show. But sometimes I wish they'd just cut that first bit and just give you the song from the show, and then if you can do it, great, and if you can't, there and then. As far as scene work, as far as like the acting stuff, I live for it. I'm like, I just want to be in the room for as long as possible. But when it comes to the singing, that's where I like definitely panic.
Do you have a most embarrassing moment in an audition room?
Obviously, whenever you crack, because it happens to the best people. You're in an environment where you're desperate for a job, especially if it's a role you really want. You're nervous, your voice is strained, and so you need a free voice to be able to do certain notes. So if that's not the case, then you're gonna crack, and it's always embarrassing. Every time it's embarrassing, but it's never ever stopped me from not getting a job. When I did Mamma Mia, I did 9 rounds, and in the audition they make you belt thank you for the music. So the what a life, da, 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 da. That bit. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I cracked every single round. And I kept thinking, I called my agent. I was like, I cracked. I was like, I'm not going to be seen tomorrow. And she'd call me and be like, hey, she was like, so they're seeing you again tomorrow? And I was like, what the hell? And then in my very final, so number 9 of the audition process, the musical director came over to me and he was like, Vicky, we need to talk about that note. He was like, because I've seen you on stage and I know that you can do it. So you just need to do it in this room. And I was like, I'm really trying. And he was like, I know. He was like, so we're just going to stand over at the piano. We're going to do it over and over again. We're going to forget about the people on the desk. And lo and behold, it came out perfectly. And it came out perfectly every night on stage. But because I was in an audition and because I wanted it so badly, my voice just went, Rrr. I remember... Actually, this is probably my lowest moment. I remember the director, he came over to me and he was like, Victoria, he was like, are you a bit out of your depth? And I was like, yes. And he was like, you don't have to stay if you don't want to, you can go. He was like, I saw Flaemmchen on your CV and I know that that's a dancing role and I'm so sorry, it's my fault. I just assumed that you were a dancer. Like, you've done nothing wrong. He was so nice about it, but essentially he was like, you're rubbish, leave.
And so obviously you've been around the world on stages around the world. What is it like living in digs and being away from home for that amount of time?
I love it. If I was an actor, I'd be traveling somehow. I'd be doing something else that involved traveling. And even when I did like the UK tour and I got to see all of the UK, like visiting places that I'd never been, I am very good at sort of getting out of my digs and being like, right, what does Plymouth have to offer that Oxford doesn't, or whatever.
Working unsociable hours, because obviously when you're in a show, most shows take place in the evenings. So what is that like, working unsociable hours?
The insociable hours I don't mind as much. It's the events and special occasions that I miss that break my heart. So as far as like the day to day, I'm a day person anyway. I get stuff done in the day. I like going out. I like going to the gym. I like having my days, and then I'm happy to go to work. But when you miss all your friends' weddings or funerals, I've missed funerals, like now I have it written into my contracts. If there's a wedding coming up, I say there and then, I need that day off. It's too important now. And people that are in the industry absolutely get it. They're like, we completely understand. But the people that are not in the industry, they're the ones that just can't wrap their heads around the fact that you're not free on a Saturday. They're like, what do you mean? It's a Saturday. And I'm like, well, that's when I have 2 shows, so that is hard.
Lots of people come to me, and because I'm very open about my story, they're open about theirs, and lots of people suffer in life anyway with anxiety and depression and confidence. What would you say to people that have gripes about their appearance?
I'm like an Italian woman, so I'm like hairy. But like I used to get like really dark hairs on my arms, which I now get rid of, or like my lower back or my upper lip. Like that for me was like, that's my like, oh my God, I look like a man. Like I must look like a man in drag when I put makeup on. Like I was so self-conscious about it. So like everyone has something. It's not unique to like one person or one thing. I think, is that even advice? I don't know. I don't know if it's advice to say everyone's got something. But it's definitely something to be mindful of. You never know. One person's thing isn't yours. It's different for everyone. For the general, I know I've said that having a social media presence is important maybe in my industry, but outside of my industry, I have a conversation with yourself. What is your social media for? What are you gaining from having it? What do you gain from hashtagging even? Because I remember someone saying to me, oh, if you hashtag, you'll get more likes. And I was like, well, what? I was like, I don't. But then I'm purely putting something up for you to like it. So I was like, right, I'm not hashtagging anything. I'm making a decision right now that whatever I put up is for me and my friends that follow me. Again, I made my accounts private, so that not just anyone can have an opinion on what I look like. I'm not interested in strangers having an opinion on what I look like or what I sound like or my, political thinkings or whatever. Like, I don't need to know how you feel about that. That's not for you. This is for me. And then the part of me goes, well, do I even need social media? But actually, yeah, I quite like it. I actually really enjoy going on holiday and my mum saying, oh my God, it looks amazing. Like, I like that. That makes me happy. But what I'm conscious to not do is put things on social media for appraisal of who I am, what I think, what I look like. I don't need your approval. If I feel good about myself, if I think I'm a good, kind person, and my partner thinks that and my family think that, that's fine.
It's funny because during COVID, like suffering from like anxiety and depression myself, I had a fair few breakdowns and I wasn't in an okay place. And then I'd have messages from people, so-called friends, that would kind of like, I would kind of be trying to reach out to get some sort of like, I need to talk to someone sort of thing. And I'd have messages back, oh, but it looks like you're doing really great because I can see on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Well, social media, regardless of whether you put a physical filter on, social media is filtered because I'm not gonna, and I have made a conscious effort to now, but I'm not gonna sit there and post about how crappy I'm feeling about myself, because all that's gonna do is encourage people to, or it's gonna sound like I want a bit of, oh no, you're great, and also don't really want to share that with the world. And the happy moments, yes, obviously there have been loads of happy moments and positive things that have come out of being in lockdown and having such a close like in our four walls, the three of us, lots of family time, lots of like really precious time, and obviously that's amazing. And so yeah, like things will end up on Facebook, but that's not, you can't just take that as face value. Like you say, like I've made a conscious effort to be like, actually it isn't all about the good things. And if that's what my friends are thinking of, obviously I've got to think as a business. And I've lost 4 stone. I've got loads of tummy gripes, body gripes from either having a baby and losing all the weight, that obviously I'm not going to be how I was before I had my baby. And she's just turned 3. It's taken 3 years for me to get to a place where I can kind of accept that most days. So I've kind of tried to make a conscious effort to be like, actually, yeah, I've lost all this weight and I'm like running fitness classes, and I did that to lose weight. But I'm not fixed. I'm not perfect. No one's fixed. No one's perfect. Yeah. Like everyone has something. So let's talk about it. Like you say about people in your industry having the social media side of things, because technically you as a person are your business in a way. Like you say, if you had done that whole public Instagram, Facebook thing, and you would have had a following and whatever, you would have been able to keep that following going and whatever. And you've obviously made a good decision to not have that, which obviously, to respect your privacy, is great. You don't want to have to be handling 2 sides of social media, like the real Victoria and then like the actor. But and so mine is purely for, my Instagram especially is purely for my job. But yeah, I've started putting things up, been like, yep, yeah, this is how I feel today. Anyone else with me? Yeah. Because I know that there are people out there that are with me, and I don't want to come across as like everyone's like, oh, I'm so inspired by your weight loss and you're always really happy when you're in class. I'm like, yeah, because I'm dancing to musical theatre and I'm working out, which means that I've got loads of endorphins being released. And so obviously I'm like on a natural high. You guys are all with me, which makes me really happy, because I know that you're happy. And this is my 45 minutes of the day that I actually get to myself. I don't even get to pee on my own. Oh, it's been so nice to chat.
It's been lovely. Thank you so much for having me. I am going to head off to my food.
That's fine.
Lovely to see you. Thank you for...
You too. Thanks for joining me for a glass of wine.
I had a beer, and I had a beer in a glass because I'm...
It kind of looks like whiskey.
It does. Let's go with that.
You look very like...
bougie. Right. Cheers.
Cheers.
There's lots of love, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.